Motocross Action crew had a great opportunity to test Sean Collier's KX500 from 1997 against his 2015 KX450F to test these bikes because, number one, we love the 450s, especially the Kawasaki 450. It's a great bike with a very good package. And the 1997 KX500 is a bike that isn't even around anymore, so it holds a near and dear spot to us in our hearts. The C4MX built KX450F pumped out 63 horsepower and produced 40 foot-pounds of torque. Luke Frenchy Cowett had the responsibility of cutting the valve seats to get more flow out of the head, and he also went with a slightly more compression with the cylinder and piston combination. Without question, the coolest modification done to the engine was a KTM 42mm throttle body, which replaces the 43mm Kawasaki throttle body. The injector on the KTM unit is located at the bottom, and the butterfly opens a different direction. The combination greatly improves throttle response as well as mid to top end power, which Cowett claims they gained over 2 horsepower. However, none of that would even be possible without a vortex ignition, which Cowett uses to really dial in that power band. Frenchy also installed a complete hinge and clutch system to withstand the increased torque that resulted from the engine modifications, and finally used WPC treatment on all of the moving parts in the engine. This treatment eliminates friction and heat. We were particularly drawn to the carbon fiber gas tank, which holds about 1 liter more of fuel than stock. That's imperative for 450 Nationals for the long motos in the heat. Collier really needed to be able to go the distance. The larger tank costs about $1,800. It's made in Italy and it was purchased through Pro Circuit. Another part that was purchased from Pro Circuit is a self-siphoning titanium radiator catch can, which costs them about $250. What happens is once the bike cools down post-moto, the coolant sucks back in to the radiators, so no coolant is lost. In terms of suspension, Collier really preferred the Enzo suspension. He also went with a 1mm longer link arm, as well as stock offset triple clamps. Sean Collier is a pretty tall and lanky guy, so he has his setup preferences. One thing he really likes are those titanium Raptor foot pegs, which he has Frenchy sharpen up the teeth real well to ensure that he doesn't slip a peg in the middle of a race. Sean also prefers a 20mm longer hammerhead shifter with a rubber tip to accommodate his really big feet. We also couldn't help noticing that Collier prefers the Scott's Performance off-road steering stabilizer on his KX450F as well as the KX500. The 1997 KX500 isn't actually owned by Sean Collier, but instead by his father. So Frenchy at C4MX had to strip the bike down, he powder coated the frame, ordered new plastics, and he started going through the entire engine. In terms of the engine, he had to rebuild the crank and remachine the case because the Kawasaki had discontinued selling the crankcase. He also ported the cylinder, installed a larger carburetor, and boosted compression. As a result, VP C12 race fuel was a must. C4MX was able to surpass 66 horsepower with 45 foot-pounds of torque. FMF gave Sean a specially made pipe-in silencer with a silencer that resembles a 4-stroke. The coolest thing on Sean's KX500 has to be the front end. Frenchy had the idea of retrofitting a 2015 KX450F front end onto the KX500. It was actually much easier than Cowett thought, because the fork stanchion diameters were exactly the same. Frenchy simply pulled off the old forks and slid the KX450F Kayaba triple air chamber forks into the clamps. Not only could he use newer technology, but he could also run a 280mm Moto Stuff front brake rotor. Given that Kawasaki discontinued the KX500 after 2004, there aren't very many aftermarket parts available for the bike. That's okay, because Sean knows what he likes. First, he prefers the Scott's Performance steering stabilizer. He had the foot pegs sharpened. They're not Raptor titanium foot pegs, they're stock, but still, Frenchie was able to really sharpen those things up so that Sean could have ultimate traction. And lastly, the problem that Sean encountered at the MTA World Two-Stroke Championship was when his shock collar bolt came out. Frenchie fixed that by installing a longer bolt with a backing nut and copious amounts of Loctite. The 2015 KX450F and KX500 comparison will be featured in the September 2015 issue of Motocross Action. For more news and info on these awesome bikes, visit motocrossactionmag.com.